Hi there, thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 things I learned from making a career shift. This is actually going to be part 1 of 2. Next week, I'm going to do a second video on 5 more things that I learned for a total of 10 things, so stay tuned. Before I head into today's video, I want to share that I have created a free guide on how to create a career that you absolutely love. I'm going to put the link to that guide down below in the description if you are looking for some insight, some support on how you can create a career shift to something that feels really in alignment with you, something that feels really, really good. I encourage you to check out that free guide. And if this video helps you, please do like, share, subscribe. It really does help me get my message out there. And there might be somebody in your world who could really benefit from this. So without further ado, I'm going to get into today's video on those 5 things that I learned. Now, before I do list those 5 things, I do want to share, though, a little bit about the career shift that I made, just very, very briefly. So I used to be a CPA. I was a CPA for over 20 years in the corporate world, climbing the corporate ladder, doing what I thought I was supposed to do. I was successful on paper. Anybody looking at me would have thought, like, you know, she's doing really well. But on the inside, I felt really out of alignment. I was very stressed. I just felt like there was something more for me. Like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I didn't feel like I really fit. I mean, I think it looked like I fit in many ways and I could kind of blend in, to be honest. I think I made myself fit in, but I never really felt like I was where I really belonged. I always felt like I was trying to make my job be something that it wasn't. And so I went on this journey to figure out, well, how do you know? What are you supposed to do? I mean, I knew I was in the wrong place, but I had no idea what to do instead. I was really quite confused by it. So I went through a long journey to figure out what are the pieces that I need to know about myself? Like, what do I have to know to be able to make a decision that's not guesswork? Because I didn't want to be guessing and moving around to a bunch of different places, wasting a whole lot of time and energy and money and creating a lot of stress in my life. So in that process, I did figure out what I needed to do to make a change. And well, here I am now. I am a coach. I became a coach. And now I help people go through that process itself. So that's a brief background on how I got to this place. So 20 plus years in the corporate world as a CPA. So the first thing I want to mention that I learned really in my process is that you will never be ready. I don't think there was ever a moment where I felt really ready. It really becomes a leap of faith. That's what this comes down to. There's not going to be some sign necessarily from the universe that just says, hey, this is it. It's not necessarily going to be this pretty dance all the time. When things lock into place, they really lock into place. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just totally unknown and nebulous. That's not it at all. But in terms of if you're waiting for everything to line up in your life, everything to line up in your mindset, everybody in your family or your friends to be on board with it. Like if you're waiting for some sort of thing to happen, for you to take steps, it's not likely going to happen. I'm going to be really honest with you. Those are stories we tell ourselves because we're scared. And I mean, I've been through it. Like I said, this is what I learned. There was always a logical reason why I couldn't do it. I did figure out what it was, but there was always something holding me back. And the problem with this is they're really valid, logical reasons. Like we all have actually really legitimate, I had really legitimate reasons why I couldn't take the big step. I'm a single parent. I've been a single parent for a very long time. I'm the sole income. That was my excuse. I'm sorry to say, but it was my excuse. And if you're listening to this, you might be like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty legitimate excuse. I think, I could get on board with that. Yeah, totally. I think it was a really legitimate, valid excuse, but it just stopped me. The truth of the matter is it was a block that I had, and it really went down to my mindset about money, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this actual video today. But truthfully, any reason I had was really just a cop out. I was scared when it got right down to it. I was just scared. And it's like, if you've ever had a kid, if you've ever had a child, they say, when you decide to have a family, nothing ever is perfect. If you wait for it to be perfect, it'll never happen. It's the same thing with this. If you're waiting for everything to be rainbows and unicorns, it doesn't happen. I've never seen it happen. It's just not the way this goes. It's about making a decision and then committing to it and taking those steps and keep moving boldly forward. So, second thing I learned. This was a hard lesson. The second one was a harder lesson, and that's why I want to share it with you. The universe, life, God, whatever you resonate with, is always going to keep nudging you back and pivoting you back to this path. So what happened for me is I got fired. Okay, I got fired from my job. I'm really open about it because I think it's important to really understand that when we're not in the right place and we don't listen, life takes things, into its own hands for us. And it is doing it for us. It's really saying, it said to me, you are not in the right place. And we keep telling you that. I got lots of signs that I was in the wrong place. Let me tell you, I got so many signs. But my fear stopped me from making the move, right? But eventually, something happened at work where I disagreed based on my ethics. It was a perfect opportunity. It was a perfect storm, if you will. I didn't agree that was about something that was being asked of me. I was fired. And so we like to think that I like to think I had all this time. Like I could just wait. I could just figure this out. It'll all line up somehow, right? I told myself this story. That's just not the way it goes though. So life will keep you. If you're on this path and you're getting a nudge, it's going to keep pulling you back there, whether you like it or not. It's just the way this goes. And the more painful the process will be is really determined by how much we are in resistance to it. The longer we put it off, the longer we have our excuses. This is what I found, certainly, and this is what I find with my clients. It's the same thing. Time and time again, it brings me back to a conversation, a client called just this morning, someone who was also fired. Thankfully, when I was fired, and I say thankfully, I had already lined up my new career and I was already building a business. So when I got fired, I really had the realization right away of what was happening. And I truly saw it as a blessing in disguise. I could almost hear a voice in my head that said, you weren't going to leave, so we removed this from your life so you would take the step. I could really hear that in my head. But I had a call this morning with a client who was fired last year. And, he didn't have something lined up. And so it's been a struggle, trying to get through it. Being fired can be really challenging, right? That's a lot of trauma. And it was a beautiful breakthrough this morning he had. Was telling me about it because he's just started a new job and he's having all these fears come up about being fired. And we had a beautiful reframe this morning. He had a beautiful reframe, and he said, they kept telling me I didn't fit in and I was really struggling. Like all these messages his former employer was telling him before he was fired. And he had this beautiful realization this morning and he said, no, they were right. I didn't fit in. It was a toxic culture. They didn't want to change. I had bigger visions. They didn't want to, change. So he had this really beautiful realization that, it was the same thing. It was life removing him from whatever situation he was in because he is meant for greater things. And that's the journey he's on right now. And so this happens with a lot of people. They lose their jobs. can't tell you, a lot of my clients, I can't tell you how many of them have lost their jobs. I haven't actually looked at the numbers, but I'm guessing right in my head it's about 60%. And a lot of them are on the verge. They're on the verge. And it's not necessarily being fired. It could be being laid off. So it's not always a firing situation, but it often is. Because we don't fit. I didn't fit. I was trying to do more. I had all these great ideas of how we could do things better. And again, where I worked, it was the same thing. They didn't want to change. They didn't want to evolve. They didn't want to really get to solutions. They just wanted to kind of go along and same old, same old. And that's not who I am as a person. And there was, a lot of other things about my job that didn't work for me. But truthfully, I didn't fit. I didn't fit in my job. I didn't fit in the company. And life made sure that I made the changes that I needed to change. It can be a bit jarring, right? So that was the second thing I learned, is that life will absolutely redirect you. If you're on the wrong path, it's going to keep pulling you back, as it did for me. So the third thing I want to share that I really, really learned is that the rest of my life changed dramatically once I made this shift. I had some awareness when I was in the wrong career and in the wrong company, and all those things were not aligned. I did have an awareness that this was having a negative impact on not only myself, my self-esteem, my confidence, and all those things, but also on the rest of my life, my health, my relationships, how I was showing up, my energy levels. Wow, that's a big one. That is a huge one. How much my energy levels changed after I didn't realize how much it was draining me. It was really, really draining me. I had been experiencing this for years, a lot of muscle pain in my neck, my shoulders, and my upper back. I was getting massages monthly, like deep tissue massages to release all the pressure and the tension in my neck. That all disappeared. It was about 2 to 3 months after I left my former career. Those pains just disappeared. That's pretty profound. All the stress that we have and we experience in being in environments and places where we know we don't belong, we know we're not in alignment, that stress builds up. And it's one of those things where I don't think, I know I certainly didn't realize how much it had built, because stress is one of those gradual things. It's like that analogy of, you put I think it's like a frog in cold water and put it on the stove, and the frog doesn't jump out, as the water starts to get hot, because the frog, gets used to it, gets acclimatized to the increase in the water temperature. It's the same thing with stress. We don't really realize, that was the profound realization I had at a deeper level. I kind of knew it intellectually, but when I could experience it, it was like, oh, wow. Like it really stressed me out. And the change in my outlook on life, how I show up, I'm a much more open person. I feel just more relaxed. I feel more peaceful. I don't distract myself. I used to distract myself a lot, whether it's Netflix, just going online, social media. I mean, there's just so many ways that I was distracting myself, wasting time. I don't waste time anymore because I got things that I want to do. I really do. I got things I want to accomplish, not only in my business, in my personal life. Like I just have such clear alignment now that my whole life has really, really improved. So the fourth thing I want to mention is I don't think I had a full realization of how much not only my skills transferred from my old career to my new one, but how much of my past, the things I had done in my past, have all started to get pulled in. This has been such a cool evolution. I think, and I see this with clients all the time. One of the things we do is we go through, when I work with people, is we go through their past, and it's really to collect data. There's a really data collection process about the good things and the bad things, and just analyzing it, right? And I am constantly amazed at all the things that all of a sudden, it was like a puzzle piece coming together. It was like all these aspects of my life all are fitting together. It's really this divine perfection. And I thought of one example, and I was thinking about this video today because I was actually coming on video today. In grade 11, when I was in high school, I won the public speaking contest. I went in front of the whole gym in front of the school, and I won the public speaking contest, and I loved it. I mean, I really loved it. Like, I was as nervous could be. I mean, man, I was, fully in fear. But that was a moment for me in my life that really stood out as a profound moment of real me being connected to me. And in my career as a CPA, I did speak sometimes, in meetings and, did presentations. I didn't really love it because I didn't enjoy the topic as much as I do now, but I love speaking. I love getting in front of this camera now. Like, it really lights me up. I love sharing my messages. I love being able to support people by doing this. And I just am amazed that something from so many years ago that I loved doing is now something that I get to do that actually supports people, helps the world at large. When we're all stepping into our power and creating lives that we love, it supports the whole world, really. I get to make money from doing it. It's such beautiful perfection. And there's so many of these instances where every aspect of my life has come together in this beautiful way. It's really a beautiful way. And I also see it with clients. And like I said, we do that data collection. And now I know, when I work with clients, now I know, I start to see again, it's those threads, and we start to pull those threads together. It's this really, really cool process. So that's one of the things I learned. And none of the stuff we've done, like, I think we think life is so random, and it's not. It's not. All the things that you've done, all the things you've experienced, all the things that you love doing, all the things that you don't love doing, it's all there for a reason. It's just a matter of pulling all those pieces together and making sense of it. And once you do, it's a pretty cool experience. It's pretty cool. So, okay, the last thing I want to talk about in today's video, the fifth thing I really learned, is I really had to face all my blocks about money. And this is a continuing process. Often the reason we give for not wanting to make a career change, and it really was for me, it was really about money. But underneath my fear of money, and like I said, I was a single parent, was also a fear of, can I do this? Bit of imposter syndrome. Am I ready? Will I ever be ready? Will people listen to me? So we often use money as an excuse for not taking action. We do this all the time. We all have our money blocks. So I really have had to get really honest with myself in all the ways I stop myself because of money. And this is a continuing evolution for me, because every time I do something in my business, I hit it again. And what I've learned in my own journey as an entrepreneur, and it's just one path, it's the path I chose, is what's happening. Is what happens when you become an entrepreneur. But it is also happens when you step into doing more work that has more meaning and more purpose. We're taught this idea in our society that we're somehow supposed to suffer to make money. That's a message that really gets sent. And if you look how many people are really unhappy in their jobs, really the message is that, you have to suffer to make money. And so I had to really come up against all my limiting beliefs about money, all my limiting beliefs and, what money really means to me, how much power I give to money. I gave so much power to money. And again, we're taught this, thing I've really learned about money is so much of all our money beliefs, like it's programmed into us constantly. The news, like the people in our lives, it's this constant barrage of messages about money. I mean, there's so much energy to so many stories about money. So it was two-part process for me is first of all, seeing what was going on, but also having some grace around it and just understanding that these are a lot of the messages that are out there and it's okay, but I can now choose to believe something different. I can now choose to take a different path. The truth of the matter is, we can all look for data, stories, information to validate our beliefs, or we can choose to look for circumstances, data, stories to support a new belief. So I had to start to look for stories of people who were doing work that had purpose, that had meaning, that were also making money. Because I saw a lot of stories of people who were only struggling and making money. So I had to find evidence of people who were doing the opposite. And you start looking for stuff, you will actually find it. There's lots of evidence out there, lots of evidence, but I had to be willing to let go of that belief that I had to struggle, that money had to be this struggle for me. My journey continues with money. It continues to unfold. I do believe this is a journey that takes years, it can take years to unfold. For myself, I know a lot of my programming was deep, was from my childhood, as it is for everybody. So those were the five things I learned that I wanted to share today. Again, next week's video is going to have 5 more. I would love to hear from you. Are these things that resonate with you? Can you see yourself in any of these things? A lot of what I'm sharing, the things I learned, is things that clients also learn. So I know these are some of the common threads that get interwoven for anybody who goes and chooses this experience of diving into a career change. So I hope this video was helpful. And again, please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it so much. And I will talk to you soon. Take care.